These are the LTC CF-121D 120mm ARGB PC fans, and let's be honest, we all know where the idea for the design is coming from. And I get it. Not a lot of people are willing to pay for the premium that some fan manufacturers are charging. And even more importantly, that doesn't necessarily mean that something is bad. Who knows? Maybe these are fantastic fans. So let's find out. You get these in a triple pack. Black or white for 40 USD on LTC's own website, so about 13 bucks per fan, which isn't particularly bad. And they even come with a daisy chaining feature. Each fan on its own doesn't come with any cable, and in every box you will get one of these. And here is where you will also find the 400mm long 4-pin PWM cable and 3-pin ARGB cable, which by the way are like really thick for some reason. And actually how you mount these is so simple, it's even kind of funny that I didn't see this before. On two of the frame sides you will find this connector, the female version on one end and the male one on the other one. And if you look very closely, this is actually the same type or almost the same type of connector as your front panel connectors. So just a longer 1-pin, like thick row. In total we got 6 pins, which also means that LTC wasn't just brain dead when designing these. 4-pin PWM and 3-pin ARGB, and this means like at least one pin is shared across the two, probably like the ground one, but that doesn't really matter here. Anyway, to get the fan going, all you need to do is slide that white piece onto the side of the fan with the male connector on it. And voila, the pins align and everything is connected. It's so freaking simple, it's almost too simple. We have seen kinda similar approaches which went horribly wrong. Remember the Arctic Bionics ARGB fans? There the pins went sideways, like away from the fan. It was just horrible. As stupid as it seemed to be, like when I first got them, it works. It just works. And the same applies to the daisy chaining feature. Align the female and the male side of two fans and whoosh, you have a block. Very, very similar to the way a certain company does it without specifically naming it. This is just the most bare bones approach to the same problem. Now, as easy as this was, there is something that does annoy me, and it's the fact that you only get a single connector piece per box, which is just stupid, because that way you are forced to use them in a triple block. Like, sure, 3 intake fans in the front, great, or 3 exhaust fans in the top, also great. But if you want to mount like 2 in the top and 1 in the back as exhaust, yeah, congrats, you will need to buy another box. I hate when manufacturers do that, because if you think about it, if you buy 2 packs, because you need 2 connectors, okay, 1 fan in the back and 3 fans in the top as a triple block, well, now you are still left with 2 fans that you can't connect to anything anymore. And they aren't selling that thing, like the connector port, independently, so that's just stupid. But hey, at least we got enough radiator and case screws for every fan. Ignoring these 2 sides, every other side of the fan lights up. We got ARGB in the center, going across the impeller, we got borders across the edges, we got a strip going around this, whatever the hell this is. No, I actually know what this is. Why? And we got a tiny ring going around the necessarily visible shaft. Yes, this is probably the most ARGB I have seen in a single fan. Like, this was probably the max. They couldn't squeeze more into that. And although I didn't expect much from the light as in like quality, it's actually okay. The transitions are somewhat smooth. The LEDs in the center are even bright enough. The ring in the center is a bit darker given, but I guess that's just because there aren't like additional LEDs in the middle. It's just the see-through part is getting whatever is left over from the LEDs around. But as a whole, ARGB is actually fine. Nothing revolutionary, but it's okay. On the quality side, you will definitely need to adjust your expectations. The fan costs like 10 bucks a piece, and they are incredibly like they are not the worst I have seen, but they weigh really nothing, and it's really easy to squeeze them into stopping the impeller, and I mean 10 bucks a pop. It's not going to win any prizes, and even if you like touch or you walk across with your finger across the parts where multiple parts come together, yeah, you can feel like the border, you can feel some edges, sharper edges, and you need to adjust your expectations. But what? Can you stay, please? Thank you. But what about raw stats? We got an up to 1800 RPM quick fan pushing 70 CFM at up to 2.23 mm of H2O. So stats-wise, it's okay. It's nothing revolutionary, but it can do something. We benchmark all of our fans in two different ways. First, we do a case simulator, a wooden box where we use two fans to recycle the air within, and we measure the results by looking at the CPU temperature underneath a passive Noctua P1. And for radiators, we blow through a 10 FPI 80mm radiator and measure the performance by calculating the water temperature above ambient. For both of these tests, we first measure max performance, and then we slowly lower the fan speed and note down the noise to create a noise to performance curve. Letting the fan spin at their max 1800 RPM in our case simulator, they managed to keep the CPU at 44.5 degrees C, which is not that bad. It's in the lower part of the graph, sure, but it's close to the Arctic P12. So for cases, that will still do, it's just not amazing. But before we get into the noise, something about how these react to PWM settings is just unnormal. Usually, you got a quite big range, let's say max 1800 and minimum 500 RPM. And then 1800 means 100%, and most of the fans start to flatline around 25%. So each 10% step tends to be a few hundred RPM difference. But not on these. Here it's like 50. And at 30%, which is the point where we usually stop testing because some fans will start to enable that fan stop feature, there it was still running at 1250 RPM. And that also explains the weird curve, because every time I step it down, nothing really happens except for the noise. But let's first start with the fact that the fan is kinda loud. It is actually significantly louder than an iceberg thermal iScale Lightning spinning over 400 RPM faster. And from there, every step made the fan spin minimally slower, resulting in an impressive decline of noise, but just a minimal one in temperature. And slightly interesting here, they started off at an exceptionally bad spot, basically offset of the Li & Li Unity L RGB fans by like 3 degrees, but they slowly and slowly started to fall down until they overtook a Montag AX120 fan. But as a whole, case is not their strongest use case, neither in max performance nor noise to performance. But what about radiators? Making them spin at max, they kept the water at 12.5 degrees C above ambient. So for rads, it's not looking that bad, but it's still not particularly impressive. But now they are sitting next to the Cougar Apolar fans, and funnily enough, close to the Corsair QX120, a fan that costs $50 a piece and comes with an ARGB implementation made in 2010. So there are much worse bang for the buck fans out there. In the noise to performance department for rads, it looks a lot better. Now they are outperforming both the Chieftronic Nova and Montag AX120 from start to finish, but they are significantly behind the Li & Li Unity L fans. But considering the price difference, I mean, it's something. So let's be honest here, they aren't particularly good. At least for cases, there they are just particularly bad. On rads, it's definitely better, but it's no chart topper, but at least it's something. No, the issue I have with them is actually the price. If they would be like $5 a fan, sure, why not? If you don't have the funds to buy these extremely expensive but very well-made fans, I get it. But the iceberg thermal iScale Lightning exist, and they come at roughly the same price as these. And they beat the LTC fans in every category under the sun. So no, if you ask me, for bang for the buck or just bang, there are much better alternatives out there. However, the one thing I gotta admit, the whole ARGB implementation is quite good, and the daisy chaining feature it just works. And let's be honest, we all know how these are supposed to look like, or what these are supposed to look like. So for me, it boils down to this. If you are using them for cases, don't. And if you're using them for radiators, only if it is absolutely necessary to achieve this exact look without paying for this exact look. For that one particular use case, I understand you. But if anything else applies, if you want to get the most for your money, if you want to get quality for your money, there are better alternatives. Oh, and quality control. One of my 6 fans does a weird grinding noise. It's more like a ticking noise. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but I assume that there's just some dirt in the bearing. But hey, to get this much ARGB into a single fan at this price point, something had to be left unchecked. But okay, this should be all for the LTC CF-121D, what a weird name. And at this point, a huge thank you to LTC for sending them over. Oh, on a side note, we have a Discord server, so if you want to join, the link is down below. And we got channel membership, so if you are planning to sell your soul for an RG poop emoji, that's one way to go. But if not, I'm also releasing the content to all members 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Except for the NDA stuff, because, you know, I don't want to get sued. Additionally, you can rest assured that the income will not only keep the channel afloat, but will also serve to find a translator who can tell me what the hell this means. Is that a Y or a G? Modfly? I have no freaking clue. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to continue, have a look at our take on the iSpec Thermal iScale ARGB Lightning. Also a very complicated name, but they have an amazing bang for the buck. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.